Amid the mists of 19th century Vienna and London, one name never appears in textbooks. Matthew Henry Phylos, a ghost walking the edges of Victorian power. He wore countless identities, yet never had a real life of his own. Tonight, by the firelight, let us brush aside deliberately buried history and hear the life of this secret agent. How do you define loyalty? Medals, or silence sunk forever beneath the waves? In an age of grand events, Matthew Henry Phylos chose the most dangerous and lonely path. He wove a vast intelligence network for the empire, only to be discarded and erased in silence after his greatest successes. Close your eyes, and follow the gentle narration to feel the misty yet sharply clear story of his soul. Some truths are only meant to unfold slowly in the quietest nights. This is the story of Matthew Henry Phylos, the vastly underrated spy genius of the Victorian era. His life was a phantom built from fake identities, and a profound interrogation of human nature. In this unhurried tale, may the fortitude of this unknown man carry you into deep, peaceful dreams. In a corner of Westminster Abbey in London, there stands an old unmarked brick, silently bearing a century of dust. If you ever walked through that center of political power, you would never guess a man once moved beneath those very floors. He held dispatches that could shake the British Empire to its core, yet died in an unrecorded accident at the height of his influence. Matthew Henry Phylos, even in intelligence archives of the time, he was listed as never existed. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us enter his real life through a story you need not strain to remember. This is a tale of concealment and sacrifice, of a soul lost among multiple identities yet finding its quiet purpose in the fog. As you listen to distant, faint bells, you may sense the loneliness in this agent's heart, damper than London's fog, deeper than midnight. Matthew Henry Phylos's destiny began the moment he learned to vanish into London's famous fog. In the 1850s, coal smoke and river mist wove a grey hush over the city. Here, Matthew was no longer a respectable young man. He became a ragged sailor haunting dockside taverns. Or a quietly dressed gentleman, listening to politicians' idle talk in club corners without a name. He soon learned a true spy needed not physical prowess, but extraordinary patience for solitude. On a dim moonlit night, he lurked in shadows behind the Foreign Office, simply to verify the authenticity of a single seal. The tension of a pounding heart in utter stillness became the very texture of his life. He recorded in a code only he understood, each line capable of deciding the fate of a colony. Yet no one would praise him for these notes. His very existence defied the empire's orderly surface. The chasm of anonymity slowly cut him off from ordinary life, turning him into a shadow drifting through darkness. Matthew Henry Phylos spent most of his time not in glittering parliaments, but cold, windowless offices. He understood with piercing clarity, power lay not in speakers' orations, but in unspoken letters. He was sent to the turmoil of Crimea, posing as a war correspondent's assistant, secretly tasked with exposing traitors within the army. There he saw war's cruelest face, not cannon fire, but the twisted betrayal of human nature under extreme pressure. He watched a supposedly great general sacrifice his men's secrets to save his own career. In that moment, Matthew felt a bitter doubt about the very idea of loyalty, yet he completed his mission anyway. He moved through storms, his features growing sharper, his eyes holding weariness beyond his years. He once said, "I have seen too many suns rise. Yet beneath each one, rot lingers in the shadows." This insight made him both indispensable and deeply threatening to the elite, a blade they relied on but feared. He knew too many of their secrets, so much so that his own life became a scrap of paper ready to be torn up. The weight of destiny often comes from the collapse of identity. Matthew Henry Phylos faced his sharpest pain in Vienna. At a secret ball to obtain a critical list, he disguised himself as an Italian gem merchant. Amid the lights and champagne, he encountered a long-lost lover, now the wife of an enemy spy. In that fleeting glance, he forced his eyes to hold only merchant greed and shallowness, even as his heart bled. To succeed, he set the trap himself, watching his only warmth shatter into the fog. This cruel twist of fate revealed he was no longer whole, just a collection of broken fragments. He drank alone on midnight streets, staring at his reflection, and felt a stranger to himself. He began to wonder, beneath the name Matthew Henry Phylos, was there any soul left that belonged to Matthew? The cost of his choices was devastating. They stole his love, and stripped him of the ability to feel joy. He wrote in his notes, "I am everyone. Yet I am no longer me." This lucid despair became his greatest nightmare in later years. In the late autumn of 1888, tension hung thick in London's air, and Matthew was old. In a deeply hidden clinic, he wrote his final report, exposing corruption within the intelligence service. He knew the price of sending it. No one would save a retired agent who knew too much. When dark figures quietly entered his rooms, Matthew did not resist. He even poured himself a cup of hot tea. He looked one last time at familiar yet alien streets outside, a smile of weary understanding crossing his face. In that moment, his life flared bright and brief, then turned to ash. The truths he once guarded sank once more into the mud beneath the Tower of London with his death. He had no tombstone, no funeral. Even his notes were burned by his successor. Yet he left an invisible force, lingering in the city's fog, in every night where someone struggles for truth. This understated desolation was not failure. It was a soul's final act of redemption, forged under unbearable pressure. To answer the question from the beginning, what lies buried beneath that unmarked brick? Everything a man surrendered for his beliefs, and a loneliness he never regretted. Matthew Henry Phylos spent his life hidden to buy the empire brief peace, then vanished without a trace. This fate, rising above intrigue to return to purity, is the most moving and ruthless melody of the Victorian age. Tonight the fire has dimmed, and fog thickens outside. Carried by this gentle story, soothed by Matthew's calm, resilient spirit, sink into deep, peaceful sleep. You do not need to play any role. On this soft night, simply return to your most authentic self. Hold on to the small light within you that never fades. Good night, and sweet dreams.